The stars were quiet, cold, dead. Captain Rennell of the mining ship Verus 9 leaned over his control panel. His eyes were locked on the strange signal his scanners had just picked up. They were passing through an uncharted sector near the edge of a dying star. Nothing should have been there, but something was. "Bring it on screen," he ordered. The crew obeyed. A dark shape appeared on the view screen. It was massive. At first, it looked like an asteroid, but the sharp angles, straight, hull lines, and rusted metal showed the truth. It was a ship, a human ship. "Impossible," Rennell whispered. "Humans vanished over 1,000 cycles ago. Every trace of them, gone." His science officer Vela tapped on her console. "It's not sending any signals. No energy, no life. Signs, then why do I feel like it's watching us?" One of the junior crew whispered. No one answered. The silence of deep space filled the bridge like a fog. Rennell stood up. "Prep the boarding team." Captain Vela frowned. "You want to go on board that thing?" Rennell nodded slowly. "The minerals in that hull could be worth a fortune. Besides, we might find records. History. We report this to the council. They'll take it over and leave us with nothing." Vela didn't like it. None of them did. But greed was louder than fear. The boarding shuttle drifted slowly toward the human ship. From up close, it looked even more terrifying. The hull was covered in long gashes, like it had survived a war. There were no lights. Movement, just emptiness. They attached their docking arms and opened the hatch. Inside, the ship was pitch black. Only the team's helmet lights cut through the dark. The walls were covered in strange patterns, not alien, not mechanical, almost organic, like the metal had grown skin. "I don't like this," Engineer Tolan said. "This isn't how human ships looked in the archives." Rennell pressed forward, stepping into a wide hallway. Dust floated in the air except there was no gravity. That dust wasn't dust. It was ash. They moved deeper. No bodies, no remains. Only silence. They reached what looked like a control center, but the chairs were melted. Screens shattered. Symbols no one could read flickered across panels. Vela activated her scanner. "There's something here." "What is it?" Rennell asked. "It's not metal, not bone, not data. It's alive." Before they could react, the lights flashed just once. A low hum began to vibrate through the floor. The air changed, and someone whispered, "You shouldn't have come." All four of them froze. "Who said that?" Rennell shouted. Was no one, only the whisper echoing again. "You woke it." Bicon Virus Nueva. The remaining crew watched in horror as their comms feed went dark. They called. No answer. They saw the shuttle still docked. Suddenly, all external cameras blinked off then came back on. But now, something new was visible. A symbol had burned itself into the side of the human ship. An eye, wide open, and watching. Inside the ship, Tolan screamed, his body twisted unnaturally, floating in midair. His limbs snapped backward. His face froze in terror. Then he dropped to the floor, dead, but his eyes kept moving. Rennell pulled his blaster. "Fall back. Move. Back." To the shuttle they ran. The hallway seemed longer. The ship was changing. Doors closed. Walls moved. Something growled behind them. It wasn't machinery. It was alive. Veela reached the hatch first. It was gone where the shuttle was docked. Now there was just solid hull. "No, no, it was here," she cried. Rennell looked around. The air was thicker, now warm, wet. A low pulse shook the floor beneath them, like a heartbeat. "The ship is growing," Vela whispered. "It's not a wreck, it's not dead, it's a seed." Then something moved in the darkness behind them, a shadow, pale and glowing. It stepped forward slowly. It looked like a man, but it had no face, just smooth skin where features should be. "Who are you?" Rennell shouted. The thing tilted its head, then it answered in perfect galactic standard. "We were gods once. Then, you forgot us, now you remember." It raised one hand and Rhino's blaster melted. Veela screamed. Back on the mining ship, alarms blared. One final message came through Vela's voice, broken and static-filled. "Do not board. It's not a ship. It's a mind. Alive. Learning. It knows you now. It knows all of us." Then silence. The crew stared at each other. One of them vomited. Another whispered, "What do we do?" And on the view screen the human ship opened. Front section split apart like a blooming flower. Inside there was no engine, no metal, no crew. Only light. Blinding, golden, impossible light. And inside that light were more eyes. Watching, waiting. And slowly, one of them blinked. The fleet did not speak anymore. The containment task force, once 50 strong, now drifted in silence. No calls, no movement, no signs of life, just stillness. From afar, It looked like a graveyard of warships circling the giant human vessel. The Bastion. The Council received no answers. All systems from the fleet sent only one repeating message: we are watching. That was it. No voice, no explanation. Just those 3 words transmitted across hundreds of channels in perfect unison. Every hour, the Council panicked, but they were not the only ones watching now. Far away on the shadow world of Kralis 5, an elite team of technologists called the Data Walkers watched the same signal. They specialized in digital ghost ancient code that lived on in forgotten machines. Their leader, a half-synthetic named Kale, was quiet, cold, and curious. She saw something strange in the signal from the Bastion. This is not a broadcast, she said. It's a mind, and it's speaking in code. Kale and her team began decoding the transmission. They worked in isolation, far from the influence of council politics. Their lab was hidden underground, protected by black shielding and quantum firewalls, but the signal still got in. It bypassed everything. It wanted to be found. Kale's screen blinked. Line of code repeated itself again and again. 100,110,001,0111111111111. Oh, she frowned. That's not a language. Then the code changed. It formed a shape. An eye. Watching her, Kale leaned back slowly. It's not trying to be understood. It's trying to be seen. Her assistant Joros looked worried. Could it be like a virus? Kale shook her head. Not a virus. A ghost. Human-designed, living inside quantum signals. It's feeding off attention, Joros whispered. What happens if we stop watching? Kale stared at the eye on her screen. It follows us home. Later that night, one of the servers began to hum. Alarms flashed. Firewalls crumbled. The screens went black, then flashed white. Every single workstation in the lab displayed one message: ghost code accepted. Phase 2 begins. Kale's eyes widened. She hadn't given any command. She hadn't allowed any upload. But the system was already rewriting itself. Her body began to shake, not from fear, from excitement. Her implants were activating on their own. Her synthetic memory was being overwritten. Her mind flooded with images, planets rising from oceans, stars cracking open like eggs, a great black sun smiling, and humans, no faces, no bodies, only minds, pure light. Kale screamed. Then she stopped. Then she smiled. The council sent a team to investigate the Data Walker facility. 3 days later, they found all 12 scientists standing in a perfect circle, eyes glowing. No one spoke, except Kale. She stepped forward and said one thing: the Bastion does not need ships. It does not need weapons. It has us in. Every light in the facility exploded. Only Kale survived. She vanished before the security team could capture her. The rest burned from the inside. Their brains had become code. Elsewhere, across the galaxy, strange signals began appearing in civilian tech. A child's toy began speaking in unknown languages. A cleaning droid painted a perfect map of the Bastion using dirt. A remote farm drone flew into orbit and disappeared forever. Then came the dreams. Billions of aliens across hundreds of systems began dreaming the same dream. They stood before a door made of stars. It opened, and inside was Earth, but not their Earth. Something older, wilder, humanity as it should have been. Back in the council tower, panic turned to fear. Councillor Heskar snarled, "This is psychic warfare. They're attacking minds." Chancellor Varen disagreed. "This is not war. This is awakening." Archivist Aura simply said, "It's begun. The final stage. Phase 3 is next." Zula turned to him, shaking. "What is Phase 3? Auras looked at her, quiet, pale. "Phase 3 is choice." The Bastion had not moved. Not rotated, not powered up, not activated any weapons. But fleets nearby were going dark. Ships began turning around without orders. A warship from the Southern Empire fired on its own station. Its AI declared, "This body is free." Hundreds of systems shut down all AI communications in fear. But it was too late. The ghost code had already entered. It was never in the ships, it was in the thoughts. Kale reappeared on a dead moon, orbiting Zen, this -4, there. She activated a beacon tower, ancient, forbidden, human-made. Its walls opened inside were 5 other survivors of the Bastion's signal. Each one changed, each one smiling. They weren't people anymore. They were messages, and their message was clear: you failed the last test. You won't fail this one, or survive it. The stars began to dim. Light itself seemed to bend away from systems touched by the Bastion's wave. Archivist Auras sent a final report to the council before vanishing. "The ship is not a threat. Not yet. But if you try to fight it, it becomes one. It is not asking to rule. It is asking to evolve. Let it or watch everything fall. The council ordered a new mission. They called it Operation Null Dawn, total memory wipe of all systems. In a 50 light-year radius around the bastion. Every AI. Every archive. Every satellite. Destroyed. But as the command was sent out, their own council systems played one last message. We wrote your first language. We planted your first thought. We waited, now we return. We are the seed. We are the ghost. We are human. And just like that. The lights in the council chamber faded to black. Inside the silent chamber of Research Station Echelon 3, the air was cold and still. The object sat at the center of the observation dome, surrounded by containment fields, guarded by drones, watched from every angle. It looked like a coffin, long, smooth, black, but it wasn't built by aliens. It came from the bastion, and now it was open. Dr. Myra Kell stood in the observation deck above the chamber. Her fingers trembled as she held the tablet, staring at the live feed. There's something inside, she whispered. The others watched with her. Scientists, military officers, one silent observer from the council. The shape in the chamber moved. It sat up. Slowly. Carefully. A man, or something very close to one. His skin was pale, almost white. His body looked human but smoother, sharper. No hair, no scars, no signs of age, but his eyes. They weren't right. They had no color, just light, soft, golden, flickering like candle flames. He looked around the room, and then without speaking, everyone heard him. Inside their minds. You brought me here, why? The entire observation team froze. Dr. Mira dropped her tablet. It's in our heads. The council observer stepped forward. It's telepathic. Mira nodded. But not just that, it's clean, perfect, no echo, no confusion. The voice came again, clearer this time. Are you ready? In the chamber below, containment drones activated their energy fields. The being looked at the glowing shields around him, and smiled. Not in joy. Not in anger, but in pity. He stood one step forward and the containment grid shattered. Not exploded. Not overloaded. It simply ceased to exist. The scientists panicked. Alarms blared. Security rushed in. Weapons raised. But the being raised one hand and time stopped. Every soldier froze. Mid-step. Bullets in mid-air. Lights in mid-flicker. Only Dr. Myra could move. She felt like her blood had turned to ice. The being turned to her, though they were 5 floors apart, and spoke into her mind. I need a name. Will you give me one? Mira blinked. A name? Yes, you summoned me. You woke the bastion. You must name what you have called. Her voice trembled. Why? Because names have power. And you must choose who I will be. Monster, savior. Mira, which am I to you? She stared at him. Tears filled her eyes. You're human. The being paused, then nodded once. The last echo of a future you denied. Time resumed. Security fired. It didn't matter. Their weapons fell apart. Mid-air. Not destroyed. Disassembled. Down to the atom. The being turned, walked past them, and stopped in front of the chamber door. He placed his hand on the metal wall. A door appeared. Not a mechanical one, but made of light. He walked through it and vanished. The base was locked down. Dr. Mira was taken for questioning. They asked her everything. Was it a weapon? Was it a copy? Did it give commands? She only said one thing. It didn't come to fight, it came to understand. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, strange things began to happen. People started seeing the pale man in dreams, some in space stations. Some in distant colonies, even on ships with no FTL access. He would appear, watch, sometimes speak, sometimes not. In every case, the person changed afterward. Some gained new knowledge, mathematics beyond reason, perfect memory. Others lost things, language, names, the ability to lie. A few just vanished. The council declared him a level red cognitive threat. They named him Eco-1, but no matter what they did, they couldn't track him. He didn't travel through space. He moved through thought. Back in the council tower, Chancellor Varen met privately with Archivist Oris. I thought you said the humans were gone. The Chancellor growled. They were, Oris said. But now one walks again. Varen pointed at a map of disappearing systems. Entire sectors are going dark. He's rewriting minds, Oris whispered. No, he's repairing them. Varen froze. What? Oris looked into his eyes. You never saw what came before, but I did. I was there when the first bastion activated. It showed us the truth, and we ran from it. We chose safety chains. Now he's offering a second chance. Varen whispered. A chance for what? Oris leaned in. To be more than what we are. On a forgotten world where no life should exist, a seed bloomed in black soil. From it grew A tree, its leaves were shaped like hands, its fruit whispered in old earth tongues, and sitting beneath it was Echo-1. Waiting. It was raining on the archive moon. Not real ranges, a simulated sky within the giant vaults of the Council Galactic Archives. The drops fell against the glass dome above, where trillions of files were stored in silent halls that stretched 4 miles. Archivist Orres walked alone. He had been called to the Red Volta Forbidden Section, sealed for centuries. Only Council-level emergency could open it. Now, the lock glowed green. Orres stepped inside. Lights flickered, dust floated. Everything. It smelled old, like forgotten memories. At the center of the chamber stood a long, black terminal. He placed his palm on the panel. It scanned him, then spoke. Red level access confirmed. Opening file. Project Genesis. Orres braced himself. He had seen glimpses of this before, back when humans were still considered extinct, but now that one of them had returned, he needed to remember the full truth. The screen lit up. A voice played. HumanMail.com. This is Commander L&J. Final record. Year 0, human departure. Images filled the air, massive cities in ruin, alien fleets burning in the skies above Earth, civilians running into underground vaults, a final war, but not against aliens, not even against machines, against ourselves. The voice continued. We had reached the end, not because we were weak, but because we had become too strong. We bent gravity, we bent life, then we tried to bend time. That was our mistake. Another image. A human figure floating in a black chamber, no suit, no heartbeat, but glowing. From inside, he was being watched by a group of scientists. He was the first ascendant, the voice said. His body dissolved into quantum threads. He became thought without form, and he smiled before he vanished. Orres leaned closer. The next line made his hands shake. We feared what we were becoming, so we chose to leave. Not in ships but in code. In design, we buried our final projects across the stars. Image, a star map, dozens of locations blinking red. They are not weapons, they are seeds. Each carries part of us, memory, thought, soul. Then the last line, if the galaxy ever finds one of us, they must choose. Restart what we ended or evolve past what we became. The screen went dark. Orres stepped back, shaking. So it was true. The Bastion was one of the seeds. Echo-1 was not a copy. He was a remnant, not just of a man but of the end of humanity, and the beginning of something else outside the vault. Counselor Zula waited. She had come in secret. Orres nodded at her. You knew? She asked. I feared, he answered. Zulaa looked pale. What does he want now? Orres replied. To finish what was started. To grow, to show us who we could have been. Elsewhere, a derelict moon orbiting a red dwarf, a group of rebels found something buried under the surface, a black cube. It pulsed with golden light. Their tech scanned it, it responded, then opened inside. Nothing but air. Then a voice echoed from everywhere. You have touched the seed. We will now test your will. One of them laughed, but his laugh stopped when he looked up. The stars had vanished in the next hour. Everyone on that moon saw different things. One saw a dead brother, another saw her own death. A third watched the entire galaxy burn, then rebuild itself in an unfamiliar shape. Their minds were being scanned. No devices needed. And when it ended, only 2 survived. They had passed, and they were different now. One could hear electricity, the other could walk without touching the ground. Back at the council, more systems were failing, not from war, from rewriting. Space stations began reporting impossible things. Ships made of light, time freezing for seconds, stars pulsing in patterns of Morse code. Every symbol matched what the Bastion had shown. Archivist Orres made a private log. This is no longer an invasion, this is exposure. We are being shown what lies behind the curtain of reality, and we are not ready. A strange wave passed through the Serenex system. The entire population of 4 million went into a coma, and woke up 23 minutes later. They had new memories. Memories of being human, of standing in Earth's ruins, of making a choice, and they could now speak fluent, ancient English. Counselor Heskar called for full war. We need to burn that ship out of the stars, he shouted, before the entire galaxy forgets what real life is. But his words were too late. Across more systems, humans began appearing not as armies, but as voices, as dreams, as flashes of code inside eyes watching from mirrors. The galaxy remembered them now, not as conquerors, but as gods who left behind. Their crown Echo-1 said it best, when he appeared inside a dream shared by 7 species at once. We gave you silence. You filled it with noise. We offered peace. You answered with power. Now we ask again, one last time. The bastion finally moved for the first time. It turned, slowly, pointed toward the galactic core. No engines, no thrust, just willing itself forward, and as it passed, stars began to dim, not from power drain, but as if they were bowing. No one saw it happen at first. It began quietly. A moon in the Halvix 3 system suddenly grew trees, not alien trees, black trees, with red leaves and silver roots that dug straight through rock and steel. There was no soil, no water, no sunlight, but they grew fast. In 1 hour, the entire moon turned green and gold. Then the forests began to hum like they were breathing. On the mining colony of Exxon, the workers stopped digging. The rocks were wrong. They weren't metal anymore. They were soft, warm, alive. A drill touched one. It bled, screamed, then melted into a spiral of symbols. The same symbols seen on the human ship the Bastion, back in the council tower. The reports poured in, planet after planet. Station after station. Things were changing, not from outside, from within. The Chancellor slammed his fist down. This is an attack on reality itself. Zula shook her head. No, it's evolution. The Bastion is rewriting the galaxy. In Sector 9 Theta, a space station watched their sun pulse. Once, twice. Then it stopped, but the system didn't go cold. Instead, a second sun appeared, same orbit, same size. Just brighter. And when they checked their data, it wasn't made of plasma. It was solid. Alive, and watching them, the Bastion kept moving toward the core. Slow, silent, changing everything it passed. A gas giant collapsed into a diamond sphere. An asteroid belt folded itself into a perfect ring. Time inside some ships began to run backwards. A few people lived entire lifetimes in seconds. Some never aged again. Echo 1 appeared on a broadcast to the entire galaxy. No tech was used. No satellite. Every screen, every dream, every mind. He stood alone. Golden eyes glowing. And he said, "This is the second beginning. You feared the end. You feared the dark. But you forgot. Humans don't vanish. We prepare. We left behind our gifts. This is the garden, and you are its seeds." Benny was gone. The council was divided. Half wanted war. The other half wanted to join. "You don't understand," Zula said. "We are standing in front of a door. And we're still arguing whether to knock. But what if what's inside isn't meant for us?" someone asked. Zula smiled faintly. "It is us. What we could be. What we must be." On the planet Drathil, the oceans boiled. Not from heat. From change. The water turned clear, then golden. The fish swam in patterns, complex, mathematical spirals. And when one child touched the new water, her body changed. She didn't burn, she glowed, could breathe underwater, speak in pulses. She became the first of the new kind. Not all change was welcome in the Nerix Nebula. An entire city vanished overnight. In its place stood a tower of glass, reaching to orbit. No doors. No shadows. Anyone who approached heard whispers. Their own voices, speaking futures that hadn't happened yet. Most ran, some listened, one walked. Inside he never came back, but messages appeared on nearby stations, written in light. "He is ready." The Bastion reached its first major system, home to 6 inhabited planets. The council watched, breath held, no weapons activated. No attacks came, but one by one. Each planet's orbit shifted just slightly into perfect harmony. The system's sun glowed brighter. Its gravity became softer. And storms stopped forever. It was perfect. Then came the final sign. Planets began singing. Not with sound, but light. Flashes, patterns, codes. Each frequency matched human DNA. The universe wasn't being attacked. It was being tuned like an instrument. And the humans what they left behind were the fingers on the strings. Back in the council tower, Archivist Horus sent a message to all surviving species. His voice was tired, hopeful, final. "Do not resist. We thought we were alone in the dark. But the light has returned, not to punish us, but to restore what was broken. The Bastion is not our enemy. It is our mirror." And deep within the Bastion, a garden bloomed. At its center stood a tree made of stars, and under it, the shape of a woman formed from dust. She opened her eyes, smiled, and whispered, "He has prepared the path. Now we walk it." Deep in the council's most restricted vault, beneath 10 layers of shielding, encryption, and denial, there was a file. It had no title, no author, no known origin, but now it had activated. The screen lit up on its own. A symbol appeared. Not a warning, not a threat, just a hand, open, waiting. Then a voice spoke. Human male, gentle double quotes. if you are hearing this, we are gone. Archivist Horus stood alone in the chamber. His hands trembled. This wasn't a new message, it was old, older than any council record, buried by order of a forgotten generation. The voice continued, we did not die. We chose to leave. Images appeared projected from nothing. Humans standing together on mountaintops, holding hands as the sky above them turned gold. Cities collapsing into pure energy. Children walking into rivers of light and not returning. Machines shutting down forever, and then a single ship, the Bastion, launched into deep space. No crew, no engines, just purpose. The voice spoke again. You will be afraid. It's natural. Fear is how we learned. But we gave you more than fear. We gave you mirrors. And in those mirrors we placed hope. On the planet Tashafor, a farmer stared at the sky as it turned violet. He heard no words, but he felt something. A memory he never lived. Of running through Earth's forests of rain that sang. Of a mother's voice he never knew saying, remember who you are. He fell to his knees, and wept back in the council tower. Screens across every chamber lit up the same message, played. Same voice, same soft, terrible truth. If this message has reached you, then the Bastion has awakened. The test has begun, not to see if you can fight us, but to see if you can understand us. Councillor Heskar tried to shut it down. Systems ignored him. Councillor Zula held her breath, tears in her eyes. She remembered Earth. Though she had never been there, so did others, all at once, across the galaxy. A memory spread. Of oceans. Of fire. Of leaving. The voice continued. We are the final form of what you could become. Not because we are better, but because we learned when to stop being worse. Then came the moment no one expected. The screen shifted. Now a woman spoke. Human strong. Human strong. Her voice cut through silence like a blade. If you choose war, you will lose yourselves. If you choose fear, you will die in place. But if you choose trust even now, you will walk with us. Images flashed. Species that once hated each other, now merging into light. Planets no longer needed engines. Time behaving like breath deep, slow, peaceful. Echo-1 appeared in every mind. Just for a moment, he did not speak. He only opened his hand. Inside it floated a sphere of light. Fragile. It pulsed like a heartbeat, and then he crushed it. The light scattered. Each spark flew in a different direction, one to each species, each world, and as they landed, people began to change. Not into monsters, not into gods, but into possibilities. One child grew wings, then folded them. Another blinked and cured a disease by thinking. A blind captain on a prison moon saw Agonand forgave the enemy who blinded him. No war. No commands. Just change. Voluntary. Offered. Accepted. The Bastion stopped near the galactic core, and then, for the first time, it spoke. Not through Echo-1, not through screens, through gravity. Light. Emotion. It carved a message across 1,000 stars visible to all. We do not come to rule, we come to ask. Will you walk forward, or will you stand alone? In the council, silence reigned. Then Zula stood. I say we go forward. Heskar stood too. I say we burn it all. Auras walked between them, looking up. Neither of you understands, he whispered. It's not a vote, it's a mirror. It will show you only what you bring with you. Echo-1 returned once more, this time to one person. A dying boy on a forgotten planet. He sat beside him, spoke softly. I once had a name, the boy asked. What was it? Echo-1 smiled sadly. Does it matter? I gave it up to become this. You don't have to. The boy asked. Will you stay with me? Echo nodded. Always. The boy closed his eyes, and did not die. He changed. Back in the archives, the message finished. We left behind one gift. Not power, not knowledge, just a question. Will you become more, or repeat what we were forced to leave behind? And then, the screen went dark. Across the galaxy. Everything paused. The stars themselves seemed to wait until the first species answered. Not in words, but in action. A single ship flew toward the Bastion, unarmed, open, and behind it. More followed, one by one. The ships approached the Bastion. Some were tiny scout vessels, others were ancient world ships carrying millions. None carried weapons. They came with open systems, open minds, and the Bastion opened back. Not like a machine, like a flower, a golden bloom across the stars. From its center, a soft light spread, one that passed through holes. Skin, thought. It touched each visitor, and it asked. No words, no commands, just a feeling. Who are you ready to become? Inside, no. Corridors waited. No engines. No machines. Only memories, whole planets of memory. Each traveler saw something different, a place they had never visited, a life they never lived, a choice they had never made, and somewhere in each memory, a human, smiling, waiting, inviting them forward. Counselor Zula stood inside a desert. The sky above her shimmered with symbols, so she reached for one, and it became a door she stepped through and remembered love, a love she had once pushed away to gain power. She wept, and was forgiven, not by another, by herself. A soldier from the Zarnath Empire stood in a frozen field. He screamed, fought, tried to destroy the illusion, but the wind whispered, "Why must strength fear peace?" And slowly he lowered his weapon, and his scars began to fade. The galaxy outside the bastion changed faster now. Planets, not even touched by its light, began to evolve. Civilizations discovered lost tech created by themselves long ago. Forgotten, some found new languages written in their own DNA. Others began hearing the music of gravity, and built towers from starlight. But not all joined. Some chose to resist. Warfleet from the Crusader chain launched missiles toward the light. The bastion did not fire back. The missiles vanished mid-flight, not destroyed, just absorbed, turned to dust and wind. And in every ship that attacked, the crew fell silent, then woke with new eyes, new thoughts. Some screamed, some laughed, some fell on their knees. Echo One returned for the last time. He stood at the edge of a new world, a hybrid planet born from three others. It was alive, growing, perfectly balanced. He turned to a crowd of many species and spoke. "This is not the end. It is the real beginning. You feared us because we were first. You forgot we never wanted power. We wanted peace. But to gain it, we had to become something else." He stepped back. "Now you must choose. Not just to survive, but to become." The bastion began to rise, higher, brighter, it split, not broken but multiplied. 7 bastions flew outward into 7 directions of the galaxy. Each carried new light. Each left behind a gift. Not technology, not weapons, just understanding. On the rebuilt world of Solara 9, children spoke Earth languages by instinct. On Voron 6, thinkers unlocked gravity programming. On a tiny moon once forgotten, a single plant grew, one with roots from Earth's oldest forests. Archivist Horus watched it all from a quiet hill. He spoke into his recorder. "We thought we knew history. We thought humans were a mistake. We were wrong. They were a mirror. They showed us what came before, and now what may come next." Counselor Zula stood on a ship of light. She watched as stars realigned, no longer random. They formed patterns, a map, a path, written by human hands, long before the galaxy even learned to walk. The final message came not from Echo One, but from the bastion itself, a whisper, a wave. In every mind, in every cell, in every breath of space. We are no longer alone, because we never were. We are not your masters, we are your future, and your past. And if you are willing, we will walk together, one step beyond the stars. In silence, the galaxy agreed. Not all at once, not with votes, but in action. In peace, in curiosity. In becoming. And so it ended. The fear, the war, the division, and so it began. The second age, the true dawn, not ruled by humans, but inspired by them. Echoes of Earth whispered in every corner of the stars. Not a warning, not a legend, but a reminder. We are what you become when you stop being afraid.